各位观众朋友，大家好，欢迎收看我们天行健谈与修士论坛。我们今天很开心邀请到我的好朋友，美国德州州的众议院的议员，也是在全北美唯一在中国出生，然后在美国选上这个州议员的吴元之先生。It's an honor and a pleasure to have our good friend, Texas State Representative, District 137, representing Southwest Houston, Representative Jing Wu.
How are you, Jimmy? Good to see you again.
Good seeing you. How's the family? How's the kids?
Everyone's good. Everyone's healthy. We're trying to socially distance and keep safe. My mom lives with us, and we're trying to keep everyone safe and alive.
It's been hard for all of us, especially with little kids. 我们议员也是在家里隔离了很久了，但是我们很传统 ，very traditional。这个Jing的这个妈妈跟Jing的夫人的妈妈也都在家里帮忙的带小孩。To help out. This very traditional Chinese American family, where our parents help out, but also it's very hard to do this. Being from Houston, the events that are unfolding, starting in February and March with COVID, it has impacted all of us, especially hard on Asian Americans, Chinese Americans. And what happened last week with the closure of the embassy. It's a shock to a lot of us, and it impacts all of us, not just Chinese Americans, but all Asian Americans. Can we talk a little bit about the impact, not just the economic impact, but how does it affect us as Asian Americans, as Chinese Americans?
So the Asian community has been hit especially hard because our businesses didn't shut down in March. Our businesses were shut down in January. And we've been suffering through the consequences of the COVID-19 shutdown for a lot longer than other places. I know that many Asian American businesses have gone out of business. Many are semi-permanently shuttered, and we don't know if they're going to come back or not. And this is terrible for our community because not only are these businesses that were very important to the community, but they provided a lot of jobs. For people around here who need it to take care of their families.
我们刚刚提到的就是这个，自从不只是这个上礼拜把这个大使馆驻休斯大使馆关闭，这个我们的问题，我们华人的华裔的问题，一直从1月份就已经开始了。因为从这个病毒 COVID 这病毒开始的时候，我们其实从1月份，我们华裔的商家就开始这个生意受到影响，很多生意根本就回不来。那绝大部分别的这个主流的生意可能3月份才开始受到影响，但是我们提早2个月。Go ahead, Jing.
And the problem for the Asian community, and I think for business, is not only affected by COVID-19, but also by the oil market. The crash in the oil market. A lot of Asian people, a lot of Chinese people work in the oil and gas industry here in Houston. And this was a very important source of income. Schlumberger just announced that they're laying off 20,000 people. And I know a lot of those people are Chinese because they've contacted me asking me if we can help them. And there's not a lot that we can do. And other than helping them find an unemployment insurance benefits. So the last thing that is hitting us really hard is this escalating tensions with China. The loss of a partnership with China, the souring of relationships is bad for business for everyone, but especially for the Asian American community because those companies, the Chinese companies who come here, they invest so much money and they bring a lot of workers here and they bring a lot of business here and they spend a lot of money. And a lot of that money is spent in Asia Town. A lot of that money is spent, helping out Asian businesses, and that might go away.
That's a really good point. What people don't realize is that how much money is invested, especially oil and gas, being in Houston, that came from China. We welcome all investment from all over the world, being in Houston. It's not just China, but the fact that this does affect us deeply more than any other area in the United States.
And literally, the state and the city of Houston have spent almost a decade, maybe more than a decade, trying to recruit companies from China, from Taiwan, from Japan, and trying to convince them that this is the place to set up. This is the place to build their factory. This is the place to build their distribution center. This is the place to build their headquarters. We spent all that time and effort doing that. And this one closure, this one fight with Trump may have ruined almost 2 decades of work. And this is very serious.
Oh man, I love what you just said. I want our audience to understand too, because they're all over the world. They're all Chinese Americans or Chinese overseas in Japan and Southeast Asia, even some in China and Taiwan watching us. What Trump is doing doesn't represent what the majority of Americans think, and it doesn't represent us either. What he's doing is for his own election or whatever motive he has is not representative of the views of generally Americans. We don't harbor that kind of view toward China. What we said is that whatever happens in the foreign policy and for his election doesn't affect the economic impact, people to people, right? 人与人之间并没影响到我们。I hope they understand that as the public elected official, 一个在这里选出来的官员, what you're saying is that you also disagree with what's going on.
Yeah, so one of the really big selling points of America is stability. One of the real keys of why people use our money around the world as the base currency, why people want to invest their money here, why they want to do business with American companies, is stability. They know that even though our politics may change year to year and we have new presidents, new Congress, everything else, that American people will be stable, that we will keep the normal things normal. And what is so scary about what Trump has done, and you know that Trump is doing this to help himself during the election because he is trying to distract from all the crazy things that he's doing, to distract from almost the 150,000 Americans that are dead because of his failure. And he is trying to distract from that. That what he is doing is breaking norms, that he is making America unstable, that the vision that he is pushing to the rest of the world is an unstable America. And that will do more long-term harm to us than anything else. And this is one thing is, we're not defending Chinese spying or whatever else there is, right? But the way we reacted to Chinese spying in the past, the way we dealt with Russian spying, the way we dealt with Israeli spying, with British spying, with French spying, is we arrest the people who are spying, we prosecute them, and then we deal with the country in different ways. We don't shut down the oldest consulate in America. This was the first consulate built in the United States outside of the US Embassy in Washington, D.C., right? This has been here since 1979. This is an important place. And not only that, but this consulate serves almost 1/3 of the United States. It serves the entire southern United States, from Texas to Florida.
The impact is not just on Chinese nationals. The impacts are on Americans, whether it's business interests. You know, as a leader, the first thing you do is you want to, like you said, maintain stability and give the people convenience, right? To not disrupt their daily life. And what Trump and his administration is doing is affecting that. 各位观众，刚刚Jin讲就是我们节目上一次讲过的，美国一直是一个很和平稳定的国家，很多这个不同的国家来这里投资，因为这里虽然有政治的这个差别，每一年会变，但是投资的这个气候一直是很维稳、很和平的、很稳定的。Jin刚刚讲过，在德州过去10年，德州跟休斯顿一直在希望在全世界各地希望吸引投资，不管是中国或是任何的别的国家来到这里投资，因为大家都是有互利的。这个关了这个大使馆，影响到的不只是最近这个 COVID-19 影响到我们，因为这里是石油业的重镇，石油业的萧条，油价一直降。这个法国在休斯顿一家公司 Farmer 有很大的投资在这里，刚宣布有2万个员工要被裁员，这里面包括很多华裔的员工。 这些华裔员工也 reach out to 我们的周议员吴先生吴议员，请他帮忙，但是没有办法，我们只能帮他申请unemployment 之类的事情。但是在整个大环境来说，这个对中国也好，对美国也好，这都是非常不利于所有人的事情。为了他的一个人，川普一个人的私利。Gene, we've been talking about Trump, and we kind of knew this would lead down to this path for a long time. And now that it's still a shock to a lot of us that this actually happened. What do you see? How would we recover from this? And most importantly, as Asian Americans, how do we respond? We're stuck in the middle, right? We already are discriminated against because of COVID. And now with this focus on shifting the blame to China, we're seeing, I personally have experienced, my friends have experienced a lot of discrimination that was not happening 2 or 3 years ago before he was elected. It worries me. I worry about my parents who are not fluent English. I worry about my children. I worry about our fellow new immigrants who cannot speak English. What do we do? What can we do?
So that has been my biggest fear, is for the community itself, because we have so many Asian Americans. It's not just Chinese Americans. It's not just Taiwanese Americans. It's all Asian Americans. Because when somebody who's crazy wants to attack someone who looks Chinese, they don't know the difference. They don't know the difference between Chinese, Vietnamese, Korean, Japanese. They're just going to look for somebody who looks Asian. Just like the attacker in Odessa, when they attacked the family. It was a Burmese family. And anyone who's Asian American would say, like, Burmese look nothing like Chinese. And there's no way that any of us would mistake them for being Chinese, but they don't care. They look Asian. And I think my message to the Asian community is be safe. Be aware of your surroundings. Be concerned about where you're going. Don't go to places alone. Right? Make sure everyone knows where you're going at all times, so if you don't show up later, that they know where to come find you. And this is, I'm not joking about this at all, that everyone needs to take more precautions for your family's safety, for your own safety, because the people who are going to attack are crazy people, are people who are racist, people who are listening to Trump and believing the things that he's saying. Those people are not predictable. Those people are not, you can't deal with them reasonably, and you have to prepare for that. Outside of protecting your own safety, outside of protecting your family safety, I think the big thing is, I think the Asian American community needs to send a strong message against Trump. That it's not just enough to say that we don't agree, but we have to vote. That we have to send a very clear message by voting overwhelmingly against Trump to say, we do not approve, we do not like your message of hate, that we do not like your anti-Chinese, we don't like your anti-Asian message, we don't like your anti-immigrant message. And we need to tell people, we need to tell your parents and tell everybody, go vote. Go send a very strong message that this type of behavior will not be tolerated. And we can track those. We can track voting by Asian populations. They have, we're able to look at those numbers nationally. And over the last few years, there's been a huge swing in Asian American votes. And Asian Americans tend to be very independent and not choose sides. But over the last few years, Asian Americans have started voting overwhelmingly for Democrats because they see the Democratic candidates support immigrants, support the Asian community, and oppose hate, oppose white supremacy.
Gene, the first part of what you said is what worries me. It's sad, right, that we have to tell our fellow Asian Americans to worry about their safety, to not go alone. For example, I took the kids on a road trip to the countryside. I have to avoid stopping at small towns. The fact that we wear masks everywhere we go, we get dirty looks. This is America. This is not what we grew up. This is not what it's supposed to be, right? Land of the free. And it's sad. And United States, as Americans, we always have soft power. The influence of America on the world is not because just of our military might, or it's about the dream that people could come here, anybody come here and make it. What Trump has done is reversed it. lowered our actual influence in the world, people in China, people in Asia are laughing at us. They're looking down and say, look at your democracy. Like this, is this what democracy is? This is who you elect? And look at what it's done to your country. Look at the death rate here, 140,000 and climbing. I don't know. I'm worried too. And you have done so much. The past, first of all, for so many years you've been doing this, but for the past 7 months, 8 months, you really out. 俊一直过去7月，从这个疫情开始，他一直在收集那个口罩跟 PPE， 就是这个医护人员需要用的这个安全的，一直捐给医院，捐给这个第一线的人员。他没有停过。He has never stopped doing this. Some of it is not even publicized. 很多主流都不知道我们华人有献出我们的。We're trying. A lot of people don't know that as Chinese Americans, Asian Americans, we're trying. We're doing our part, even with all the discrimination, even with all the innuendos and accusations and allegations. But we're still doing it. You're still doing it. You are the only Chinese American elected here in southern 13, 14 states. And you represent all of us. You're an advocate for the entire community. And if you're telling us that we have to be careful, and if even you are telling us that this is crazy, these are crazy people, Trump's followers are crazy, Trump is crazy. We've been saying that for a while, but this is what worries me too, Gene. You said go out and vote, talk to our people. We have a significant part of the Asian community here that I'm friends with, that I know, that not only believe their rhetoric, that they are starting to be, they're Asian Americans too themselves, but they are starting to be very anti-China. They firmly believe in what Trump is saying, and it's dividing our community. I can't even talk to them. I can't even, how do we even start the conversation when the divide is so far, when it's, to us, it's so obvious what the problem is.
I think we have to start the same way we start on the other side, is to say, like, just because what Trump does not represent every American out there. And what China does not represent all Chinese people around the world. Being Chinese is not just, is not a nationality once you're outside of China. Being Chinese and American just means an ethnic group. And a very diverse ethnic group at that. If anyone actually watches and understands Chinese Americans, Chinese people but themselves are a mix of different groups. And there will always be people who, you know, in English terms, we say have drank the Kool-Aid, who are true believers. And there's nothing you can say.
Believers of hate and divisiveness and ignorance?
Yes. Why not? If it's possible for other people, why isn't it possible for Chinese Americans? Why isn't it possible for Asian Americans?
Because we're all immigrants. We came from immigrant families. How could you be against? Why would you want? It's like, oh, I'm here already. I made it. So forget everybody else. What about the compassion and empathy?
A very interesting topic, and that may be a topic that I'm not sure we have enough time for. But it's a topic that we go back to, what we call the myth of the model minority, and I know you've heard of it. Okay.
I did a show many years ago about it.
Yeah, and you know, a lot of white people, they pat us on the head and say, "Oh, Asian people, you're so good. You're so good. You see, you guys work hard and you don't say anything. You never speak up. And look at those lazy black people. They're always complaining. Look at those lazy Hispanic people. They're always complaining. And so you're Asian and you're good because you never say anything." And they have told parts of our community to play that role, to play the role of, oh, we're good Asians. We never complain. We agree.
But just work.
Yeah, we're just gonna work and agree with people who hate us. It's not a hard sell. There's black people who support Trump. There's Hispanic people who support Trump. There's gay people who support Trump, even though Trump is very much anti-gay. There's refugees who support Trump, even though he hates refugees. And you'll never get past that, but you have to look at the bigger group as a whole. And one of the things I think you brought up is this. For a long time, Asian Americans thought that they had a special place in America, that a place that you could be a minority, but not be treated like a minority. And that's a part of the myth of a model minority, is that they tell the Asian people, oh, you're special. We don't treat you badly like we treat the other minorities. But in reality is they just don't say it as loudly. We get treated just as badly. When we apply for business loans, when we apply for applications for jobs, when we try to become CEOs, it's the same rejection.
The bamboo ceiling. The bamboo ceiling.
A bamboo ceiling, but they're just really quiet. Like, shh, don't say anything.
Well, it also because of our culture, from a lot of Asian countries, we came from political climates where you don't have a voice, where you don't have the privilege to vote or to even have a say. Our parents would tell us to be professionals, be a doctor, be an engineer, shut up and work hard and good things to come, because they don't speak the language and they don't understand how it works. So we're brought up to be that. So we fit into that myth. You're right. The phrase coined model minority was framed, created by white people in the 50s, 60s to put down other races, put down other minorities, even though we all stand together. So, with BLM, with the riots, we've been very vehemently in supporting this movement, but amongst our own community, there's such a strong divide. I came under a lot of heat, for saying, why are you supporting this? And you're just privileged and you don't know. No, if I was privileged, I would not be supporting it, because we know we all are in the same boat. I'm really glad you brought this up.
And I think for the first time in a long time, that the Asian community, the Chinese community, has seen what racism looks like. And I think they finally have felt the
wrath,
the brunt of it, because because they go after it just wasn't convenient to attack Asians as openly in the past. Now it's convenient for them to attack Asians, and now we're Asian people who thought they had a special place look around and say, what happened? I thought I was special. And what I would say is, you were never special. You did not ever have a special place. They just told you you did so you would shut up.
Gene, I don't even know. It's very hard for me to even translate that to our audiences. Because I've always said, I've responded to our comments from our viewers that put us down and say, oh, as American, what happened to your freedom? What happened to your democracy? I've always defended that this is, our roots, our foundations are right. Yes, the system elected someone like Trump, but it doesn't mean it will always be like this. So what you said, it's sad for us to talk about this, because I still believe in the system. We know that what he did caused damage, but is reversible. But as Asian Americans, as Chinese, we all have to come together and not just vote, but speak out. We've been saying that for years. Speak out, be active in the community. A lot of Americans still have ties to their home country, whether they're from Korea, Japan, China, Taiwan, and that's fine. It's your heritage, it's your culture. 对不对？我们 quickly come our audience。刚刚我们讲了很多，我们到时候各位观众我们会打字幕，让大家知道我们吴议员说的话。但是我们知道我们现在的处境很艰难。我们华裔，我们一定要团结。我们不能够把我们的话语权跟我们这个投票的权利拿走。我们要去投票，让我们遇到不公平、不公义的事情，我们一定要发声。我会把我们这个吴议员的这个information 打在我们下面。如果你们遇到任何不公平的事情 ，you can email his office. If you see any experience or see anything that is discriminatory toward Chinese, you can email Representative Wu.
Absolutely.
OCA, we have organizations in place. Now, we did not understand, or we didn't participate much before, right? A lot of us. But now we do need to do this. We have to get our voice out there, because it will take years to reverse the damage that Trump has done. Now, Gene, I know you're very busy. We're going to talk in depth very soon on this. It's been hard for all of us. I know you've been working so hard. I know that we worked on it together. I know that you're swamped. I really appreciate you, because this just happened last week, the closing of the embassy. Yeah. We really want to get a comment from someone that represents that you are an elected official, you represent all the community. Now our audience will know this is not what America is. Just because Trump did this does not mean this is what most of the people think of.
I've been very clear. I've been on multiple interviews, and I've said over and over again, this is bad for business. This is bad for business for Americans. This is bad for business for Houstonians. And And this could potentially make our economic recovery twice as long because we do so much business with China. It's one of Texas's largest trading partner. It's either number 2 or number 3 after Mexico. I'm not sure if it's Mexico, Canada, and China.
Yep.
Those are our biggest trading partners. One of the single biggest purchasers of oil and gas products from Texas is China. One of my big fears is that in retaliation, China may just say, all your oil contracts are now ended. The end, go home. And that would destroy our economy even further.
It's not just the economic impact, it's the fact that we know the next 3 months, Trump will keep escalating. This is not going to end. But in 3 months, when he loses, when he's out of office, how do we recover from this? And the damage he's done to American people that believes this Kool-Aid, how do we reverse that? That is the fear, the long-term effect.
People are a different matter. People will take time. Some people will never recover. There's some people who will always believe, and there's a lot of people who don't really believe, but they put on a show of believing because it's convenient for their politics or for their agenda. That'll come with time. Dealing with Trump needs a Congress that will act. And, right now, the Republican Senate under Mitch McConnell has basically given Trump a free pass for 4 years now. And Trump feels like he can do whatever he wants. Hopefully after a November election, when the Republicans lose the majority, then they will all of a sudden decide, okay, it's time to we check Trump and we finally hold him accountable. I don't know what's going to stop this, and I'm afraid of what you just said is, as we're now 100 days from election or sooner when the show airs, that Trump's going to keep doing crazier and crazier things to get attention off of the fact that he's losing and losing very badly.
Gene, I really appreciate you. I want to thank you on behalf of our entire Asian and Chinese American community for all that you've done. We will talk in depth again. I hope our audience could understand now where the majority of Texans and Houstonians think, and hope we can repair this damage. China, Sino-American relationships has been improving for the past 30 years. It took a lot of hard work, and it is mutually beneficial to the people. What the government does and what a minority in the government does not affect the friendship and the economic mutually beneficial and economic impact on both the people. I really appreciate you. We're gonna put your official email on the show. Like I said, we'll talk again. Okay.
Okay, sounds good.
Thank you, Gene. I appreciate it. Take care.
Again.